So last year I made over 25 million yen. And to put this in perspective, this puts me at the top 1% of income earners here. Now, I know that's hard to believe, and to be honest, I didn't believe in myself until I took a look at the data. That means that I make more than the average executive, business owner, and highly skilled professional here. Now, I'm not saying that I'm better than these guys, more skillful or more competent. My success is my success, and it's defined by the life choices that I make, as well as my philosophy, and I wanted to share those with you guys today because maybe it might help and inspire somebody out there. So this isn't one of those motivational videos. I don't believe in those. I'm a pragmatist. I'm not here to tell you that money should be the center of your life, values, and happiness, because it shouldn't be. This is an incomplete guide on how I live my life, the choices that I made, and what I would do if I had to start all over again. So I'm not saying you should follow my path completely. Use this video as a point of inspiration. Your path should be based on your own identity, and that identity should be based on values that are unique to you. Now, here's what I would do if I had to start all over again. So it's an analogy that I wanted to share. You guys ever heard that old saying that life is a game of chess? I actually hate that saying because it's not true. Life is actually a game of poker. The reason why is because chess is deterministic. It's a game of complete information. You can literally see every piece on the board. You know what moves to make, and it's almost impossible for an amateur to be a highly skilled professional. But poker, it's a bit different. It's a game of incomplete decision making, which means that it's more analogous to the dating that we do, the investments that we make, and the job interviews that we take. You can only really know what's inside of your hand, but you can never know what card you're gonna draw next or what your opponent has, which means that in theory, an amateur can beat a professional maybe with one hand, but probably not over time. So life is kind of like poker. It's a game of decision making, meaning that some people may get lucky with a poor decision making framework, while others who have a great decision making framework will have a bad outcome. This is why I can't promise that if you follow my path, your results are going to look like mine. Life's just like a deck of cards. It's a mystery. So whenever I'm faced with this crossroads in life, I always tend to ask myself the same question, and I do it almost every time. Strategically, what choice can I make that can give me the highest leverage point? Meaning that if I choose one thing right now, what choice that I can make that can either improve my life or reposition me into a better angle? So this means that if I have to choose one thing in my life that can significantly reposition me or improve all other areas of my life, I am going to pick that thing. And surprisingly, in Japan, it was never learning Japanese, and that's why I deprioritized it. So when I was an English teacher, what really separated me from my Japanese speaking peers is that I invested into a hard skill. And believe it or not, learning Japanese isn't a hard skill in Japan. Most foreigners that I know who go all in on Japanese get stuck in these three particular roles. They become recruiters, translators, or they just become better English teachers. And hey, if that's what you want to do, more power to you. But I knew that that wasn't the path that I wanted to take. So when I picked up coding, I practiced every single day. I used to do these things called the 100-day challenge, and it was simple. I had to practice coding at least 1 hour a day, at least for 100 days straight. And I did several of these challenges. And the rule that I set for myself was this: you had to do it no matter what. It didn't matter if I was sick, it was my birthday, I was drunk from the night before. I had to get this thing done. And that taught me about the process of integrity and consistency. Because if there's one thing that I know, is it requires force to break through any barrier. And personally, I find for me, the simplest of methods work. And that's why I made it so simple. I'm going to practice 1 hour a day for 100 days straight. I didn't create any calendar or planner. I don't really believe in those things. I personally find those things to be very overrated when you're trying to make change happen. But these days, I do things a bit different. I still recommend that approach for anyone that's looking to break through and do like a brute force way of changing. But right now, I do something a bit more refined, but it's still equally as simple. I start from my North Star. This is my wildly important goal, and I set it every single week. Take, for example, video editing and releasing these YouTube videos. I tell myself, hey, I'm going to release a video every single Friday. Now, what I choose to do in between that time is my own business. If I want to study, practice my business skills, practice coding, it doesn't matter how I do it, but I have to get this goal done. And I treat it with integrity, just like that 100-day challenge. And the way this works for me is that, hey, I could spend my time doing whatever I want, but I have to release this video. And I find that doing this helps me reverse engineer my ideal calendar because I set my priorities and my highest responsibilities, and then everything else kind of falls secondary. And then my time, it gets naturally divided and allocated with some of the smaller goals and achievements that I want to do throughout the week. And that sort of mindset was inspired by this book that I read called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And I love this book because it helped me frame and conceptualize what effective execution execution mean? So the book breaks down execution into four basic concepts. For one, you start with your wildly important goal and only have one of these. I treat this as my North Star. Two, you create a cadence of accountability. The third one is that you have both lead indicators and lag indicators. And then four, you create a compelling scoreboard. Now, I mixed this concept with another book that I read called The 12-Week Year. And I love this book because it has this basic principle of most of us tend to get a lot of work done when it comes to deadlines. We tend to work really, really fast towards the end of the year or the fiscal year at our company, and then we tend to slow down in the middle of it. But what if you can conceptualize a year not in 52 weeks, but rather 12 weeks a year, where you set that wildly important goal and that target and you try to execute on it as much as you can? I think this idea in sports is called periodization. So instead of you practicing multiple things at once, you practice one important thing at a time very effectively, very intentionally, and then you do it over again until you effectively execute within that 12-week period. Now, I do this with also this accountability group that I run. So yeah, I kind of run a coaching group for those of you who are interested. And what I do in this group is that I meet with a group of people. We each have our accountability buddies, and we meet once a week as a whole, as a collective, and we share our wildly important goals. We designed this system around the 12-week year, and then we meet with each other to give each other encouragement, feedback, as well as knowledge share. And I love this because not only am I learning things with this group, but it also creates this, like I said, from the four disciplines of execution, this cadence of accountability. We develop this group culture where we hold each other accountable and we have to report to each other every Friday as if it's a deadline. And this sort of structure is part of the reason why I'm able to effectively learn things and get things done. Because anything that I've ever done, pretty much at a high level, has all been self-taught. I never went to school for engineering, and I know many of you guys like the videos that I do, and this is also self-taught. I'm a very self-directed person, not because I'm intrinsically motivated, although I am, but because I established systems of success that push me forward and don't sabotage me. But that sort of mindset alone isn't enough to give you the success that I had. You see, I'm a firm believer in selling yourself. I learned this when I was in college because I studied marketing. You see, people don't make decisions strictly based off of performance, and companies don't either. People make decisions off of trust, and trust is often established through knowledge, awareness, and preference. And the way that I use this is this. You see, before I get into that, I want you guys to think about, how do you make decisions? When you go to the grocery store and you want to buy a soda, as an example, let's say a can of Coca-Cola. Do you actually believe that Coca-Cola is the best tasting cola in the world? Probably not. But if you had to see a Coca-Cola can next to this unknown can, which one would you choose? You're probably going to choose Coke. Why? Because it established awareness, knowledge, and preference. You trust Coca-Cola because you're aware of Coca-Cola. And this is why I believe in selling yourself. What I'm trying to tell you is this. If you are learning any new skill, let's say, for example, programming, don't just practice coding. Companies aren't just going to look at your resume. Have a LinkedIn level visibility. Companies aren't just going to look at your resume. You need to have visibility. If I was in your position, I would either start a YouTube channel. Clearly I'm doing it. But if you're not photogenic or you just don't want to be on camera, start a Substack, start blogging, start establishing your credentials and your trust by having a chronological history of the work that you did and your ability to communicate. When you do this, you are establishing that awareness, that knowledge, and that preference. And I know this for a fact because the dream job that I got that everybody seems to want, because I work at one of the top tech companies here in Japan, I never actually applied for. They reached out to me because they saw one of my videos. And that's one of the key principles that I took away from life. I don't necessarily have to go to a networking event. I leave that for other people. I establish a high level of visibility and I bring the networking to me. So those are my high level strategies. But I also want to leave you guys with one more. It's something that years of therapy taught me, and I want to share it with you guys today. You see, you cannot intellectualize emotions. I mean, you can, but it will only get you so far. You have to experience them. This is why I tell anybody who's looking to go down the path of change behavior, start with running or boxing. The reason why is this. In those moments, it's very easy to intellectualize, hey, I'm going to run 5K. That's the goal. But the moment you start running, you're going to have to feel and experience your emotions. That 5K starts to feel like a mountain after a certain point, and you're going to learn, if you slow down your brain during those moments when your legs are tired, and you have to convert your thinking from, hey, I have 5 kilometers left, to, hey, let me just focus on these sub milestones. Let me just run towards the end of the block. Let me make it to that next building. Boxing is very similar in that example. When you get in the ring with somebody, because I try to box once a week, You can practice all of those punches, you can do all those routines, but the moment you're in that ring, all it goes away and you tend to fall back to the shit that you practice as well as your instincts. In those moments, you're gonna feel fear. You're gonna feel self-doubt, and you have to know how to deal with them. Because one thing I learned about trying any new thing is that if you want to be great at something, it's not the lack of emotions and the lack of fear that makes you great. It's understanding it, it's accepting it, it's understanding that your emotions are there to tell you something. Because I'm a firm believer that emotions are just information. And people are often waiting for these perfect scenarios to get started or to do change behavior. Some people believe that, hey, I can be great if I'm tired, or hey, if I can just focus on writing this book, that I'm gonna write something great. But the only problem is that every time I open up the laptop, I can't focus. Well, this is the point that I'm trying to make. That feeling, that uncomfortable feeling that you experience, whether you're opening up a laptop, whether you're running, that is a part of the experience. Learn to lean into those moments and understand, what are my emotions telling you? Because the moment you master it, instead of you letting them direct you, that's when true sustained change occur. And you cannot implement effectively any of these things that I said before if you don't understand how much our emotions can either be here to help you or sabotage you, depending on whether or not you are a master of it or it's a master of you. So when we think about this idea of motivation, I want people to understand this. Motivation, at least how most people think of it and relate to it, is this fleeting emotion. You may feel motivated while watching this video. That's not the point, and I hope you don't, because I want people to understand this, that whatever you're feeling right now, whether you feel inspired, motivated, or you're just watching this video for fun, the key concept that I've always learned when it comes to motivation is that motivation is created after you do something, not beforehand. So many people wait for motivation and go to the gym when really it's the feeling you get after you leave the gym. If you want to get good at something, if you want to feel motivated, start by doing it. Motivation tends to compound based on the velocity and how many moves you take towards a particular goal. So what I cover in this video is simple. It's universal, in fact, but it's not easy. But it's part of the reason why I became so successful here in Japan, because I know this fundamentally about Japanese society. Japan is not a society designed around social mobility. It's designed around conformity. And maybe that's a good thing because it keeps people harmonious. It keeps society safe. But when you come here, society wants to put you in the box and stick you in that position and make sure that nothing changed. And that's never the life that I wanted to have. And I know some of you guys who are watching this video right now and saying, psh, I can chalk up your entire success to the fact that you just got a dream job at an American tech company. And maybe you're right. Like I said, life is a game of poker. But I will tell you this, I achieved more than 99% of people in this country, including the natives. And that sort of success speaks for itself, even if I don't speak the language.